Good day, it's Christopher John Joseph Morgan here in Melbourne, Australia, with Bringing Jesus Back into Focus 5. Today I'm just going to talk about our true identity and our false identity. We all have these, and the idea is to become the true identity. And the way we become it is to simply have a look at the words of Jesus right here, and he pretty much explains the real heart essence. If you're a Christian, a Christ follower, this is how you have to be. Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evil person. But whoever strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbour and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who treat you wrongfully and detest you, so that you may be sons and daughters of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. Therefore, you are to be perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect." These are the words about the golden thread of divine love that awakens us to become spiritual children of the divine loving Creator and links us to the eternal heavenly world if we become at one with them. They were given to all children of the world through Jesus of Nazareth. His way is the way of divine love. He warned in the Gospel of Luke, "And why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not the things that I say?" A really incredible warning there, which he gave about not following this word. You know, you might praise him and sing him out in Pentecostal gatherings and other gatherings and in church hymns, and then you may still be harbouring some sort of hatred towards other children, or look down on other children, or judge or condemn, but praise him, but don't follow what he said. And this is where we've got the problem with the true identity, and that's the false identity that does those sorts of things. Our true identity is a soul in spirit. That's who you are. Undergoing a physical experience. Your soul in spirit can only be empowered by one thing only and nothing else: the divine love of the divine loving Creator, who is spiritual. Our soul in spirit comes forth from the divine loving spiritual Creator. We have one due to his connection with us, his love for us, his love in us, her love. We are a part of the divine loving Creator. It's planted in this sort of soil, this thing, this earth soil organism. It's the seed of my soul and spirit is planted in my earth organism, my earth creature. I'm not the earth organism. The best way I think of it these days is I'm a soul in spirit riding on a stallion, horse. Girls are riding on a mare. Transgender children are riding on a transgender horse. The horse, gender and all the rest of it's not as important as the soul in spirit that is riding with it. The soul and spirit must control the actions of our horse, our stallion, and the idea is that we express our soul in spirit and the divine love of heaven through our stallion, through our human body, through our physical form. The physical form should only become really a vessel that expresses, emanates, radiates divine love from our soul and spirit and from the divine spiritual loving Creator's life force that's in you. And you can use it to love others and help others and forgive others. It's infinite love. It never judges. It never condemns. Jesus understood this. That's why he's a divine child of the divine loving Creator, because he woke up to it before he died. His body died, that is. All their bodies go back to the earth. They're made from the earth and they return to the earth. But we only have a certain amount of time to realize we're the soul in spirit that's with the body. We are not any sort of egotistical false identity. And that is the two identities. There's the false identity, which is an egotistical man-made projection out of our imagination. And it's in that sort of direction that you get the Adolf Hitlers, Vladimir Putin's, Hamas, Then you get the revenge children, Israeli, Ukraine, whoever it is. Throughout all history, people retaliate, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It's the old way, not just of the Jewish children, their dualistic God, but all the old gods of the old world thinking, because they weren't awake to the truth that they're a divine spiritual child. So how do you become this divine spiritual child in this world where you've got a physical body, where other children may hurt you or even kill your physical body? And the only answer I understand is you have to become spiritual. It's the only way. There isn't any other way to find your way through the physical world with a physical identity which is temporary, other than to find your eternal identity, which is truth. The rest is at best a temporary sort of manifestation of an earthly creature, just for a little while, so that you can find your true identity. I mean, that's the idea of having a physical body in this world anyway. It's so you can find your true identity, which is within you. As Jesus said, heaven's within you. When they said, where's heaven? Where is it? It's not over here and it's not over there. The kingdom of heaven's within you, or amongst you as well, is one of the sayings. So he understood you've got to look within yourself to find your soul. It's not outside yourself, it's within. The understanding of soul comes about through words. Jesus said, my words, they are spirit and they are life. His words are the living water he spoke of, that if you drink of it, you'll never die. That is to say, if you drink his words, you will wake up to understand you're not the physical body. Even though we know we have to undergo this experience, we can't get out of that. But you're not that physical body at all. It's merely our way of expressing the divine love in your soul. Now, Jesus' words help you find that true identity. There's no doubt about it. But he said, and he warned, this is going to be a bit difficult in this world because you're going to be challenged, by children who don't believe this, and they're going to hurt you as well, and even kill you, persecute you, and that's absolutely true. You only have to look at children who are conscientious objectors in all the world wars or Vietnam War or any war. If children say, I'm not joining the government's army to go and kill the enemy, and certainly they're enemies, there's no doubt. They're invading the Nazis, wherever it was at the time, Russia, these sorts of things. They're certainly, they've started it, no doubt about it. But these conscientious objectors, they're going, no, that's all flesh. All flesh dies. If I kill another child of God, I've robbed that child of possible repentance. That's one of the things you've got to remember. When you kill an evil child, that is a child who's even acting in an evil way, you also rob them of any chance to seek forgiveness. So you've judged them and condemned them, and we have to be careful because as we sow, so we shall reap. Your time to be spiritual might be cut short. So you have to be careful about these things. It's a very dangerous area to go into to become a beast of the flesh. You're cutting yourself off from the divine love, you're cutting yourself off from your true identity, and you can begin to manifest this fake, false shadow identity, egotistical, etc. So Jesus' words are the very sort of cocoon. It's like the cocoon that forms around a caterpillar. And the words, the caterpillar enters into this cocoon of threads. The caterpillar makes a thread cocoon. But we enter into this cocoon of his words. They surround our soul. And they help us to realize our true identity. And then, of course, the caterpillar transforms to become a butterfly. That's the spiritual realization, and Jesus woke up that he was a butterfly before his caterpillar died. And that's the difference between him and most of us. Buddha also talked about this inner realization has to happen now while you're in the caterpillar. And then you live out of the butterfly then until the caterpillar stops functioning. And in the meantime, you don't hurt anyone anymore. You become a light in the world. You bring heaven into this world through your own realization that you are a perfect, loving, spiritual child of the divine loving Creator, and you can never hurt anyone anymore. And therefore, when your body, physical body, the stallion, the mare, we're just riding a horse, really, when that returns to the earth, you'll be fine. The death experience can be quite traumatic, there's no doubt about that. I'm not denying any of that. I'm a big believer in the reality of material life, in the sense that it's a very real experience our souls undergo. But it's only temporary, no matter whether it's great pleasure or great pain. When it's all induced through physical chemicals, they are all temporary. The idea is to find the higher joy, the higher lightness of being is what it's generally called. And that's when you begin to move into your soul in spirit. Meditation or prayer, connection to the divine world is how you find it, how you find the source and the enlivened energy. It's really, I like calling it a life force rather than energy. It's a dynamic, living life force of a loving, divine, loving Creator. Divine, living, loving, loving Creator. It's the life force of the divine Creator that's given to us to live out of. There comes a time when you don't need the body anymore. However, you travel with it and in it while you're here, and you hopefully help others along the way until you leave. But you can't do that until you become selfless. Selfless of what? The Buddhists certainly talk about the emptiness of self. It's one of their big terms. It can get a bit misunderstood in English translations, but essentially I think Buddha's understanding is very similar to Jesus, if not the same. You become selfless of ego. There's no self-ego there anymore. You're not the big man, the big leader, the big woman, the big whatever, the big honcho. You're not the big rock ape. All those false identities are killed. And only you can kill your own false identity, no one else can. So we have to eliminate those ourselves. The only way to eliminate them is to understand your true identity, understand all the others were false, if you, to whatever degree. We've got to remember there are shades of grey between white and black. White's the pure state of divine love. Black's just, you've covered your soul in so much black filth, you're just a darkness in the world, that's all you are. But the darkness is covering the soul with filth. Hitler, Vladimir, all these different children are covering their souls with filth. The light can't shine anymore. All they radiate is darkness. It's just shadow. And shadow, that darkness, murders, kills, robs, steals. That's what these shadow figures do in the world. They're shadow figures. They're not their real true identity. It's extremely dangerous. They don't believe in life after death of the body. They simply don't believe in it. Hitler, Vladimir, the Hamas children are murdered and slaughtered. Everyone who's retaliating, they don't believe in life after death. Not true life after death. Not spiritual life after death. They believe just in flesh. And so they kill other flesh. And their flesh is going to die too. There's no point doing that. You've moved out of your true identity. You've moved out of heaven. So how are you going to get into heaven if you've moved out of the way to heaven? You're on the other flesh way. That's all death, rotten flesh. So the false identities are shadows put on the soul, filth on the soul. Jesus brought about selflessness, as Buddha did, but Buddha used a very strong technique of meditating and analysing who you are, which is what Jesus wants you to do too. And then find your true identity and become awakened to it, or enlightened, as Buddha would say. But the word Buddha means the awakened one. Jesus also wants you to do this. He wants you to remove the obstacles, the filth that's inside the cup, as he put it. Buddha also said, remove these inner obstacles, because that's where the problem is. It's not the external world, it's the inner world. They both realized it's the inner problems, the inner false identities, false thinking, false thoughts. They're preventing you from awakening and becoming at one with you, who you really are, an eternal spiritual child who will never die. The body, yep, the body's going to separate. There we go. Body separates. The overlay, it looks like one hand there, but at death, that happens. You realise, oh, blimey, I wasn't that at all. I was this. I was this all along. This remains. This reaps what it sowed. That's why we don't have to kill anyone who's evil. They're their consequences are waiting for them. It's just a divine law. So Jesus teaches selflessness. That is, no ego. But he's very interesting. Buddha certainly taught inner passive love, become inner divine passive love, and just radiate it and become it. Jesus he taught become inner divine love, your soul and spirit, a child of a divine loving spirit creator. The same end result, you become a divine loving child. But Buddha's divine loving realization was passive. Sit in a forest, meditate. Other children who have to work in the fields bring you rice and milk and food and things to support your horse, your stallion, your mare. And then you teach them. You're a teacher, so you give them teachings. But you don't go out and help the sick or anything like that necessarily. But the Christ, 600 years later, the Christ message, the divine message through Jesus of Nazareth is become selfless first, find the heaven within first, then not passive love, active love, love in action. Love in action in this world can only come about really through the stallion and the mare, the horse that we're riding on. Someone falls down in the street, their stallion falls over and hits their head on the concrete. I remember I was driving along and a man hit the gutter and fell down, an elderly man, so I stopped, of course, and helped him up and took him home. And he was bleeding from the head, etc. Now, I had to have a physical form to stop the car, help him up, get him to his home, etc., drive there. I had to have this physical form for me to express divine love to that child of God. If I'd have just sat there in the car thinking of love, I wouldn't have been of much help to that child at all. So the dynamic of Jesus is beautiful, and I think it's probably one of the best suited to this world. I think it is possibly the best suited, because once you become divine love in your soul and spirit, all you're going to do with your body for the rest of your days until you separate from it is love others, help others, forgive others, be a light in the world where there is a lot of darkness, false identities, and just general suffering. Earthquakes, mudslides, floods, bushfires. This isn't heaven. This is some other place. But divine love is here, but it can only come through you. If you block it, then you won't express it, and you'll become part of the problem. So our true identity is to find this inner truth about who you really are. You can only do it by connecting to the divine on a very personal level. And that's why you need to have time alone, just to pray, to connect. And prayer is just conversation. Remember that. It's your spirit talking to the divine spirit. You can use a formula of prayers and routines and use symbols. It won't matter the general peripheral things that we use, light a candle, music, a beautiful place in the countryside. I find that the best, away from what I call Lego land, man-made Lego land. Jesus himself, he'd get out of the cities and go into creation, into nature. That's where he really connected. And Buddha also, interestingly, went into the creation to connect to the divine. Both these two great teachers did the same thing. I think there's a pretty wise example there. Get out of the big cities as much as you can and go and sit with creation by the sea, in the mountains, wherever you are. And that's where I go, and that's where I always feel closest to the divine presence, always. Then come back into the city, as Jesus did, and Buddha and monks and priests and nuns, and then explain the divine presence within you, within other children. Be a teacher if you want, or at least a living example. So his words bring us into this, and we have to connect to the spiritual world of divine love. Remember, it's divine love and nothing else. And then we slowly remove our own inner obstacles. Jesus, his instructions are so profound and beautiful. There's something all the time there that you can realize you've forgotten. One of the classics is, Christopher, remove the beam from your own eye before you remove the speck from your brother's. Then you shall see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's. I mean, I'm always sort of self-thinking, oh, bloody hell, I'm still not fully spiritual. I was, thinking, oh, bloody politicians or this, what's happening here and there, and you can't help think how evil certain things are. And yet, of course, we have to try to bring divine love into that situation, as evil as it is. And there is the really serious part of our journey in a world where some children become pure evil, move out of their soul into the false identity that doesn't exist, but it can manifest a lot of harm and suffering in the physical world temporarily. You know, Vladimir Putin's going to die, old age, heart failure, whatever it is, Alzheimer's. Adolf Hitler died. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, how violent you are in this world, how much of a big man you think you are. Normally, unfortunately, the male horses seem to be the ones who do this, these male egos. But anyway, they all rot. They all rot away. It's so sad, you know, so sad. Anyway, they'll reap what they sow, so don't worry too much. But as long as they're alive, they can repent. We have to remember that. The classic example is St. Paul on the road to Damascus. He was persecuting followers of Jesus, throwing them in prison, happy to see them killed, stoned to death. He was really out there. He was an emissary of the dualistic God of the Jews, the hate and the love one, that they were following under the one name, Yahweh. They had a dualistic God, and they just called the two gods by the one name. So Paul was right into that. Then on the road to Damascus, what happens? He gets an incredible awakening. Here's a divine sort of voice. He's blinded by the light. There it is. The truth. He realized the truth. That's what that Damascus experience is all about. He realized the truth, and he was blinded. That is to say, he suddenly had no idea who the hell he was or where he was going anymore, because he realized the false identity he was living out of didn't exist. That was the light. That was the truth came through to him. It took a little while for him to, you know, get a grasp of this, and he was helped. And then he realized, he fully realized he was wrong. And then he became a great, I love his description of love. I mean, I only study Jesus' words. I'm just a follower of his. I don't read Revelations. I don't look at the Old Testament much. I just follow Jesus. And but Paul has some beautiful words on the dynamic of love, the loving life force that Jesus also became at one with. But there's Paul, you see, living out of a false identity, murdering, killing, all in the name of the dualistic God, you know, very justified. Everyone's justified when they kill, aren't they? So they think. They're wrong. And then he had a massive realization, and he was blinded. He became blind to his false identity. That's what happened. And he realized, oh, he was blind. He had no idea who God was. No idea who the divine loving creator spiritual being is. No idea he was a spiritual child of love. He had no idea he was dualistic. That's the problem with everyone in the world if they don't wake up, all of us. We have to move towards the singularity of divine love within ourselves, our mind, our thoughts, our actions, our words. All these things have to come into alignment. They're like three spheres that are spinning, a sphere and a sphere and a sphere. And there's an opening. If you line up each opening from the physical and words and actions, line all these up thoughts, what will happen is the light will shine straight through into the soul, and then you'll just become a radiant soul. But you've got to align these three elements, this sort of mind, thoughts, actions, and words, speech. They have to be perfectly aligned. All your actions must only express divine love. Words only express divine love. Thoughts only generate divine love. That wisdom of thought will come through. The more you're connected to the divine, you'll find it easier to think of the right thing to do. The wisdom will be there as well, because divine love is pure wisdom, pure truth. So you will automatically start receiving what in Christian terms is called the Holy Spirit of the divine loving creator, which is correct. The divine loving creator spirit will be with you and in you, as Jesus said, I'm in the Father's in me, I'm in you, you're in me. Wake up. Interestingly, the Greek translation of the word arise, when Jesus said arise, take up your mat and walk, arise to different people. The word arise in the Greek Old Testament translations, New Testament translations of the Greek, in the old language, the word arise, which is translated to mean arise from the Greek, it also means to awaken. You know, get up, arise in the morning, get out of bed, I arise out of bed. Well, you arise out of bed, but the Greek word emphasizes it really means to awaken. Now that's the same word they use for Buddha, awakened one. Jesus is saying the same thing. The translation has moved into the word arise, but it could have easily been said awaken, wake up to your true nature. And he was also able to heal physical forms. Every single person he healed physically, they all died physically. It's not about extending a person's physical life for eternity. It wasn't about that. He showed them the power of divine love and connected them to that so that they would wake up to their true understanding of who they really are. He healed their bodies. They would have been just blown away, just gobsmacked. And they knew he was connected to the divine. They knew that. Everyone knew that. Everyone was talking about it. He's connected to God. He's connected to God. He's with God. He's working miracles because he understands God better than anyone. I mean, that's what was happening. People were really following him and searching out for him because they heard he really was special. And he was. He became a divine child of the divine loving creator, and he said, so can you. In fact, he said, you must. And he said, only you can do it. But you can do it, he said, just follow me, follow the way, and you'll be just like me, and you'll be able to do the things I did, or I'm doing, and more than I'm doing. These are his words. He didn't say, worship me on a high ivory tower and never become like me. He never said that. He said, be like me. I'll show you how to do it. And that's the problem. A lot of children worshiping him, and they say, we can never be like him. I've heard Christians say that. We can never be like him, only he's perfect. Well, that goes against everything he's trying to do for you. He is trying to make you perfect. He wants you to be perfect, not later on when you die in heaven, but right now. Now is the time to become perfect in love. Right now. Become heavenly now. If you don't do it now, you won't be ready. Then the argument comes up, but people are going to hurt me. What about the people who do this and that, the bad people in the world? Well, how are they going to know the way to heaven if we don't show them? So the true identity is your soul in spirit, and you're riding on a horse. Here's mine. Hello. Hello, said my horse. And my horse will return to the earth, and my soul will leave this horse, will separate from it, and I'll be in the presence of the divine, spiritual, loving creator. And in the presence of that divine love, perfect love, my life will be open before that, and the divine love knows everything you've ever done and I've ever done, everything you've ever thought or ever said. It's recorded. But all that happens is, of course, you reap what you sow. If you're living out of divine love, you're radiating out of your soul. Your soul is just radiating. There's not much black filth. You haven't hurt many people. You haven't stolen anything. If you've made mistakes, you've said sorry. You've made sure that soul is kept clean. You separate from your horse. You come into the presence of divine love. You yourself have been nothing but divine love, even though you've been hurt and grief and physical pain, and maybe people have really, really, done damage, like these warmongers, to your family, murdering your children and things. Even so, we must forgive. If you're able to achieve that here in this world against all the odds of the false identity children who cause these sufferings, you overcome becoming like them. You don't retaliate. You pray for them. You forgive them. You realize they're cut off from their own nature, their own true spirit. They're cut off from God. They're going to suffer big time when they die. It's unavoidable because they'll just reap what they sowed. But you, if you maintain this divine love under great stress and great pressure, you will only grow stronger in your love as a child of the divine loving creator ready to enter heaven. Meanwhile, those who oppress you, slaughter you, kill your flesh and body and family, crush people under buildings, bombs, all these evil false identities who are doing these things, they're actually weaker and weaker. They're very weak. Vladimir Putin is one of the weakest people in the world. He's one of the weakest children in the world. The Hamas children, very weak. Now everyone's retaliating, weak. They're weak in spirit. Almost, perhaps not really, much left of spirit and soul. It's so caked in filth that for them to get back to it, it's going to take a lot of hellish realization. That's what hell is. Hell is a burning realization of what you've done wrong in the presence of the divine loving creator. That's what hell is. The divine love shines on everyone when you're in the presence of the divine love, and it's in you now. You can reflect it if you want to, but you've got to receive it first. Clean up the inside of the cup. But in the presence of the divine love, these children who've murdered and killed, etc., haven't repented, and then their horse dies, their mare dies. In the presence of the divine love, that filth is burnt, but the burning is the burning realization of what they did. And they're trapped. There's no time to say sorry now, no chance, all finished. Now they have to relive everything they caused to the other child. Every child that's been crushed under a building in these current wars at the moment, Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, etc., Israel. Everyone who's caused that, a little child or an elderly woman crushed under concrete in a building falling on them, I can't imagine the horror of that. That child undergoing that experience, I can't imagine. I don't want to. It's so horrific. But the problem is, whoever pressed the button, whoever pulled the trigger, whoever gave the order, whoever committed that atrocity, you will reap that. You will be that person. Don't think it's not going to happen. It's going to happen. You better repent now and drop your guns and walk out of that war, whoever you are, wherever you are. Just walk away from it. Save your life. Your life is not the body. It's the soul and spirit. Jesus made this extremely clear, and it's true. Don't worry about those who can kill the body, he said. Worry about what destroys your soul. No one can destroy your soul. No one can harm your soul except yourself. There's the problem. We're frightened of losing our bodies. We end up sacrificing our soul. It should be the other way around. We're frightened of losing our soul, so we happily sacrifice our body. We don't retaliate. It's the exact opposite dynamic. Jesus understood this, and that's why there are so few Christians left in the world. Because of Constantine. 312 AD, Constantine took the pacifist Jesus Christ and the pacifist divine loving creator who is there, who exists, who's waiting for all of us to wake up and come into the more beautiful spiritual world. Constantine took Jesus and that divine loving creator back into war. He had the Bridge of Minerva, the battle there, and he slaughtered the enemy and he won the battle, and he said, great, we're getting rid of all our multiple gods in Rome and we're just going to have this Jesus guy and his God, because that's how we won the battle, slaughtering these other children of God. And of course, ever since then, because of the corrupt leaders of the church at the time, they allowed him to do that. They went along for the ride. And then for 1700 years, most denominations were corrupted by this. Most followers of Jesus became Jewish Christians. They should have remained just Christians. You don't need to be a Jewish Christian. Let the Jewish be Jewish if they want to be and follow a dualistic God. We don't do that. We follow the Christ God, the divine loving God, the singular. We're Christians, Christ followers. We're not Jewish Christians. I'm not a Jewish Christian. I never have been. I never will be. I'm just a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus of Nazareth. And that's all I'm ever going to be to the day my stallion and I separate. And his is divine love, and I try to be that. That's it. End of story. So the true identity is unfortunately damaged from Constantine. Children are taught that you can go and kill in the name of Jesus. You've got the Crusades, Oh, the Crusaders go in and kill the Muslims and all this sort of stuff. They weren't Christians fighting for Jesus and God. They were Jewish Christians. They were more Jewish than Christian. And it's been the same ever since. But I have to say there are beautiful people within all church denominations or Christian denominations who do not follow the Jewish Christian ideal. They're not interested in the Old Testament or Revelations. They're only interested in Jesus, and that's where you'll find all the beautiful, loving, charitable works come out of Jesus. They come out of his connection to the divine spiritual creator. That's where all the loving things you see that all Christian organizations do, it's coming out of Jesus of Nazareth and the divine loving singular creator. It's not coming out of the dualistic God at all. So some churches, some denominations have a better understanding of divine love than others, but there aren't too many that actually go all, right into the truth that you only need to follow him and his way. The Amish, I think, in America are really one of the shining lights in the world. They refuse to go to war. They've been thrown in jail during the Vietnam War, conscripted. They wouldn't go. So they were punished by their own people. And Jesus said that's what's going to happen if you follow me. Your own members of your own household will punish you. And that's exactly what happens. I would be a conscientious objector. I wouldn't go, so I'd be thrown in jail if that's, I'm too old for it now, but if that's what happened, which in the Vietnam War it happened in Australia, and there were conscientious objectors, and they were thrown in jail, or they had to escape. Same in America, etc. They had to flee to Canada, out of the States. So we become the lights in the world, but we're persecuted by the very people who are supposed to be our representatives, but they don't represent us when they do that. They represent the beast of the flesh. Revenge, kill. There's no point doing it. So you're only going to die eventually anyway. How many children have gone to war and been just massively traumatised? They went in the name of good, they thought, poisoned into doing it, and they've ended up their whole lives just destroyed by it. Even if they win, they're just so traumatised spiritually by it that it's quite a difficult thing to live with. They should never have gone. So this is the mistake that's being made all the time and still being made today. So true identity is spirit and filled with divine love, and you can't hurt anyone. False identity will cause all the troubles, the pains, the sufferings, theft, robbery, everything that's going on in the world, murder, all false, fake identities. The spiritual teachings guide you to become a loving soul. Then you have the challenges to overcome, but the challenges are the way to grow stronger in your true identity. They're not something to be frightened of. They're something to go deeper into the connection with the divine loving Creator. The deeper you go into the connection, the more you will be able to sort of endure, tolerate, and also still remain intact spiritually, despite what's happening to you. And it may be you're in a painful experience and you may be dying soon. Even so, ahead of you is another life beyond the pain and the suffering. Doctors can't help you or won't help you. You can't get any assistance. Things seem pretty bleak and the pain is terrible. Or the situation in a war-torn country is terrible. You see no way out. Eventually your spirit will separate from your body, and you'll be free of all those situations, all those sufferings, whether they're just a natural phenomena of your body being sick, or whether it's a phenomena where you're being persecuted or tortured by other children who have moved into a false identity. If you stay in your true identity, once the trauma's finished, once your physical life's finished, you will be in a beautiful world with other children who overcame the same problems, who overcame the same tests and challenges, who reflected the love of heaven throughout their life against all odds. We need each other to do this, really. We really do. We need to help one another and support one another because of the dynamic of the false identities who are ruling the world and the beasts of the flesh. They make their presence known, don't they? People of love often go unnoticed. They're not out there banging a drum. Wow, look at me, everyone. I'm Vladimir Putin. I'm a weak chimpanzee, monkey, rock ape. Look at me. I'm covered in filth. Look at me. I stink. Look at me. He's got no idea about his true identity, what he really looks like. He's a stinking mass of filth. In the sight of heaven, that's all he is at the moment. We pray, of course. He's brought to his knees like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. He has to be. He's got very little chance if he's not brought to his knees. So we got to feel sorry for the guy. He's got no idea. He's one of the weakest children in the world, but causing massive destruction, physical destruction, but he can't destroy a person's soul. So there's the challenge. You have to understand you're not the physical body, ultimately. You have to realize and find the connection to your soul within yourself. Move into your soul. Jesus of Nazareth and others who are great teachers, spiritual teachers, pacifists, divine love, they'll give you the instructions. They'll tell you how to forgive. Beautiful little example of Jesus' teachings when one of his head disciples, Peter, one of his students, Jesus, how many times should I forgive someone who hurts me? Like 7 times? Seems a lot to me, Jesus, 7? Jesus, of course, shakes his head. Peter, 70 times 7. Peter still didn't get it. The apostles had trouble understanding this incredible singularity of love because they'd been brainwashed into thinking God's a dualistic God. They were brainwashed like all the Jewish children. Although some of the prophets understood and they tried to point them towards the right way, but they still held on to this dualistic God. So Peter didn't understand that you have to become forgiveness. You've got to become the perfect child in heaven of the divine creator. You've got to do it now. You don't wait till you're in heaven. You do it now. Then you will be in heaven. I mean, if you're going to be in heaven, you better be heavenly. So even Peter still didn't understand it. And they were with him. I mean, they saw him. They watched him heal children and had the divine power of love. They saw what the divine loving creator's love in Jesus did, healing bodies. They could see it was extraordinarily powerful, but Jesus was divine love. He forgave. He didn't hurt anyone. He pointed out people they were doing the wrong thing. You're condemning yourself by doing that, he'd tell people. You're following the devil if you're going to go down that road. He'd warn them. But he wouldn't do anything to hurt them, only use the sword of truth wielded by the hand of divine love. And that's what each of us has to pick up as a spiritual warrior in this world. The sword of truth doesn't hurt anyone. The only thing the sword of truth kills are the lies. If a child's living out of a false identity and you kill the body, you haven't killed the false identity. The false identity does die with the body. The only way the false identity can be killed is if the child stays alive, even though they're doing evil things, and they're given time to realize within themselves they were living and generating a false lie, a lying identity. Then they change, but they need time. So if you kill their body, you've robbed them of the time. If someone had killed Paul, if the early Christians had been like dualistic God followers, kill, love their own, kill anyone who hurts them, well, Paul would have been killed. St. Paul, he would have been killed. But they weren't dualistic children, the followers of Jesus. They were singular. So they had to just love Paul. They never, attacked him. So this is the real way. And this is how I have to be like this. And then I have to be like this in order to shine the light of heaven now with my little life and my little piece of the jigsaw. I'm one of those little coloured spots there on my love painting. If I don't fill that little spot there, it'll never be filled by someone else. That's my little spot on the earth in this lifetime, in this place, in Melbourne, Australia, in this time, to fill that little bit with divine love in my family, neighbourhood, whatever, work. So these are the sort of dynamics going on right now, as if you're listening to this, and later on when you go and talk to your family, or when you're at work, when you're driving your car home, when you're looking at the news and what the horrible things happening in the world, you have to become a light in the darkness. The darkness, it's only generated by the false identities of the other children. This is a world of suffering. You can't deny that. It's a physical world. You come here, you're going to suffer. Toothaches, broken bones, old age, death of the horse that we're riding with and on. But we're not the horse. The flesh does not resurrect, as far as I understand it. Jesus said, our bodies are like angels once we're in heaven. We don't marry again and go through the biological stuff. He said that. He said it's a spiritual thing. Spirit gives birth to spirit. Flesh gives birth to flesh. Marvel not that I tell you must be born again. Well, it's pretty clear, isn't it? I have to leave my poor old stallion behind when the time comes, as much as he's been a great companion, and we've done a little bit of good, and that's it. I've got to then move in spirit to be in the presence of the divine, because he said the divine loving creator is a spiritual being. So I can't come into the presence of the divine spiritual being in a compost bin full of yesterday's lunch and things. That'll be rotting away into the earth. I'll come as my soul in spirit, which rode with my horse, and the actions my horse performed and the words my horse spoke, thanks to my soul directing the horse. That is what I'll be bringing. I'll be bringing the life I led, but it'll be there just like a video, you might say, sort of thing, but a real life one. And that's where I will reap what I sowed, as we all will. I pray the scales are tipped slightly in the good, in my favour. I've made mistakes like everyone, but I recognise them. I realise, oh, blimey, that wasn't good enough. That was wrong. I mustn't do that again. So I'm just the same as everyone, learning as I go. I got this lovely saying, a little song I wrote. Each of us is on a journey, guided by an inner light that keeps on burning. Just like a wheel that keeps on turning. Every day, our soul keeps on learning. Tell somebody that you love them. Tell them before it's too late. Choose to fill this world with kindness. Please don't let it waste away. That's just a little song. I love writing little songs. But about love. I wish we were back in the 60s. I'm not into this techno stuff. I asked a young guy who went to a music festival, techno music festival. I said, oh, that must have been great over Christmas, New Year. He said, oh, it was great. I said, when I grew up in the 60s, early 70s, there were a lot of songs, they had a lot of meaning, the words had a lot of meaning about love and peace and that sort of thing. I said, what sort of meaning do the techno music words have? And he sort of looked a bit quizzical and he went, they don't have any meaning. I went, oh, that explains it. So the young children in the 60s and 70s, while churches were sort of still stuck in the, Christian churches anyway, stuck in the dualistic God and sort of teaching this, the young children started to wake up, wait a minute, that's not right. And young children expressed this through music. The children of today, I don't know, I'm not up with the modern music, but I hope there are some lyrics out there and songs from some children who are expressing divine love, compassion, peace. That's what we need. Young children need to gravitate into those songs and then look for a spiritual teacher. I recommend Jesus or Buddha. Jesus suits me. I study Buddhist teachings as well. Anything to do with pacifism and love, you can't go far wrong. So anyway, true identity and false identities. And that's the challenge. Can I become, the true identity before my time is up? And if I can, then I've been successful. The purpose of having my stallion, my horse, my body, the purpose has been fulfilled. My body has fulfilled its purpose. Its purpose is, and the purpose of your physical body right now that you're sitting in or listening to this, the purpose of having that body is to give you some time to become your true self, a spiritual being, empowered only by spiritual divine love and no other energy whatsoever. We still have to put pumpkins and potatoes and beans and water into Stallion. Because Stallion needs to eat the earth, because Stallion is the earth. But you need to eat and I need to eat the living words. As Jesus said, I am the bread of life. I mean, he's the bread of life. That is to say, the words he gives you will give you life. If you eat his words and digest them properly in your soul and spirit, you will be nourished to become a living, loving, spiritual, divine child right now, wherever you're living, in your family, in your street, in your workplace. You have to radiate it. You've got to do it now, not tomorrow, not next week, not at Sunday or Saturday at the synagogue or the church or at the Hindu temple or wherever you're going. You do it right now. And then you keep connected to the divine through prayer every day. Stay connected. We all have to work and use our brain and intellect to do our job correctly, otherwise we could cause a disaster. We've got to drive correctly, you've got to concentrate. Okay, we're not praying when we're doing that necessarily. But the idea is, do your work honestly. The spirit must be in your work. Whatever work you do, do it well. Make it a genuine, conscientious job to do good work. And you do it for the other. You do an honest job for the other. You give good service. If you're in the retail business, you really help the customer. If you're in a restaurant serving, you really make sure that they got everything they need. If you're an accountant, if you're a doctor, if you're whatever car mechanic, you do an honest and good job. And if you mess up and make a mistake, you carry the cost. You carry it. That's honesty too. You don't sort of hide it in the paperwork or blame someone else. That's got to, you mustn't do that. You've stepped out of being divine spirit. We must be intellectual. We can't always think about heaven in the fullest sense of meditation and prayer time. But once you're honest in your work, thinking about the other that you're dealing with, you're working for or working with, being respectful, You're moving out of divine love when you do that. You're manifesting it in your work, in your family, in your neighborhood, with your neighbor. That's how it happens. The more you do it, the easier it will become. You might seem some sort of weak person to these, beasts of the flesh people. These children have gone into the fake identity. They got no idea. You're the strong one. They're the weak ones. They're the weakness that overcomes them. Vladimir's been overcome, Hamas, by pure violence, egotistical rubbish, filth. He's so weak he can't even stop himself. That's how weak he is. Vladimir, we have to pray for him. All the Hitlers of the world are weak in spirit. All the children who stand up against this evil but do not retaliate, they're the ones who are the most powerful individuals in this world. And they might just look like a humble, little, quiet, peaceful person. Their power is connected to infinite love, to heaven. They are going there. They are not staying here. They've opened up the way to be embraced by love by simply being loved now. And they will be embraced. There'll be no harm for them. There'll be nothing to reap or sow that's suffering. They'll be embraced by love, and they'll realize absolutely that's what it was all about, but they got it right. They were tested back here, and they'll be so glad they passed the test. So those of you brothers and sisters who are searching for your true identity, Jesus can lead you into the true identity. He can warn you of the traps. You look at his teachings, the Sermon on the Mount, really, that's more than anything, there are his words there. That's the divine love and heaven speaking through him to help you understand who you are. Go to those teachings. My personal advice is you don't have to worry about the Old Testament at all, because he found all the gold nuggets. He did all that work. He did that for us. He threw the rubbish out, got the gold nuggets, said, oh look, I've discovered these gold nuggets form this one singular divine loving being. My Jewish brothers and sisters, we got it wrong. And they killed him, of course, because they wanted to hang on to that violence system. That's the shadow. That's the dark shadow in the front of the sun. They put a shadow, a false identity, in front of the light. And the false identity casts a shadow. That shadow is their own self-projection. It's a false projection. It's not God. It's not divine love. Sorry. Wrong way. Go back. So Jesus did that. And I don't worry about the book of Revelations. That shouldn't be there in the New Testament, in my opinion. Interestingly, the Greek Orthodox children, they held out the longest. They wouldn't let it be in the New Testament. They said, no, something's wrong with this. But eventually they finally caved in, and it was eventually allowed to be in the New Testament. But it shouldn't be there. It should not be there. That's a red herring if ever there was one. So I don't ever read that. And that's it. Paul talks about love. I like that. But Jesus is my teacher, so and even after all these years, 67 years, I'm still having to remind myself of what he said, in order for me to remember how to behave correctly when I meet someone who's, let's say, very challenging. And we always meet them, don't we? But we have to be the one who does the right thing, even if they're doing the wrong thing. And that's where the power lays. You must do the right thing, even though they're doing the wrong thing, they're doing it to you, deliberately. We must still do the right thing. There isn't any way they're going to learn if we just, become like them, reciprocate. If we act out of a false identity against their false identity, there'll be no resolution. Just more pain and suffering. The idea is you don't put petrol on a fire to put it out. You put water on a fire to put it out. Jesus said, the word, what I give you will be living water. It'll put out the fire of the egotistical false identities. He says this right through the teachings. You can change. That's at the Samaritan woman at the well. I love that one. His dialogue with the Samaritan woman. The water that I shall give you shall be living water, be a wellspring within him, bubbling up to eternal life. And he said, whoever drinks of this water in the well, they'll thirst again. Whoever drinks of this water, he's talking about the stallion and the mare. Anyone in the false identity associating only with the flesh as your identity, you're just the body, well, you're always going to be thirsty. You're not the body. You've got to drink from the living water. Your soul has to drink from it, and then you'll never thirst again because you become alive to spirit. The body still needs water, don't get me wrong. Still got to, hydrate your horse until it passes back to the earth. You look after it, care for it, don't hurt it. But he's talking about the ultimate nature. The ultimate nature is not the horse that drinks from the well, my stallion. I'm not the stallion. The stallion's carrying me, my poor stallion. It's injured at the moment. It's got an infection. I can ask people to pray for me that this infection in the lungs really interfering with my spiritual practice. And anyway, I try to override it with the divine love. And there it is there. I just can't seem to clear it. But I'm praying that through the grace of God, it'll soon be cleared any day. And so the divine water, the living water, puts out the misunderstanding and the false identity you had about yourself. It puts that fire out. Once again, the water putting out the fire brings us back to this aspect of someone who's covered themselves in filth, which at the moment Vladimir is one and others have, the little Hitlers of the world. They're going to be in the presence of the divine spiritual creator. The divine love's going to shine on them. What will be set on fire will be the burning realization of the filthy things they've done out of the false identity. The false identity is what's going to be burnt. The soul will have to undergo the experience of what they caused. That's the way I look at the divine loving creator. He doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't hurt their soul, but the filth that they've brought into the divine love presence, it has to be just incinerated because it's blocking their ability to, be themselves. But the incineration or the fire, it has to be put out through divine love, or as Jesus said, the water he gives is the living water. So the living spiritual love shines on the filth, and it simply sets it alight with the burning realization, the flames of hell, that you did these things and how horrific you were, and you did them, free will. And that's what the burning experience is of hell. It's the burning realization. There's not a flames and stuff. The body's not there. The stallion's not there with you. It's you. It's really you this time, though. It's not the body. It's really you. And that's the horror of that hell of realization. The living water puts those false identities, that filth, it washes it clean now. If we wash ourselves now with the words of Jesus, it's water. I make a mistake, and I've made mistakes. Oh, bloody hell, I'm sorry I did that. Oh, I mustn't do that again. Oh boy, I did that. Oh, blimey. Okay, I've got to look, I turn to Jesus and I go, oh, sorry, my teacher. You're so patient with me. Oh, that was wrong, wasn't it? And then, sorry, divine creator, you didn't give me a soul and spirit to put filth on it. Sorry. And then with the words of Jesus, whatever it may be, forgive, whatever it is I've done wrong that I have to correct. I didn't forgive, I didn't do this, whatever it is, whatever I've done, I have to do the opposite now according to the divine love. So I do the opposite, and I resolve to not do that again. As Jesus said to the woman who committed adultery, I'm not going to condemn you. Now, go your way and sin no more. Don't do it again. Or if you keep sinning, you're going to get in worse trouble, which he said to someone else that he healed. Stop sinning because you're going to end up even worse now. So then we forgive, and or whatever we have to do. So his water then washes me clean. There's the baptism, born again through water and the Spirit. You see, that's what he said to the I think it's Nicodemus. Spirit gives birth to spirit, flesh gives birth to flesh. Unless you're born again of water and the Spirit, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now the water is what washes away the false identities, the false thoughts, the false ways, the things you're doing to hurt others. Vladimir Putin murdering and killing, his water will wash Vladimir clean. But now he's got a big job, hasn't he? Massive. Anyone else has is a little Hitler. They've got an enormous amount. They're going to have to be brought to their knees in their own realization. It can happen though. They can be saved. But he has to come to his knees before God, before the divine presence, and really understand what he's done and really feel it. So he'll be probably in a monastery for the rest of his life if he manages to make the transition into his soul before he dies. So we can wash ourselves clean though, and washing yourself clean, right, with these words, and that can wash anything off. Any filth is washed off by divine love. It doesn't matter how evil it was. Love dissolves it all. So we can do it voluntarily using water and a scrubbing brush. And we have to break bad habits, don't we? You know, if we got a bad habit, we got to slowly step it down. And then like a plant, we don't water it anymore. And it withers and it dies and we dig it up by the roots. It's out altogether. It's not a part of our life anymore. We don't nurture that anymore, that bad habit, that bad thought, that bad way of looking at others. Might be racism, for example. It's a pretty common one, isn't it? There's a common false identity, complete fabrication of, delusion. You think you're different to that child because of the skin colour. Well, if you didn't have eyes, you'd never know, would you? You're going to blame your eyes, No. It's inside. You don't understand. They are children of the divine loving creator, as are you, and they're expressing it through one of the many, many variations of creatures on the earth that are created out of divine infinite creation. All divine love. So we wash ourselves clean now with his words, but if you don't, and then you will come into the presence of divine love, you'll have to. You can't avoid it. You can't run away. The divine love, unfortunately then, can only do one thing. It has to set on fire the filth. And by that, what I mean to say is you'll have the burning realizations of the horrific things you did to other children, and you will experience it. Every child that's been killed now in these wars, the person who pulled the trigger, pressed the button, gave the order, that child of God you murdered and killed and crushed, you will be that child. You will experience it. I'm warning you. Get out of the army. Drop it. Walk away. Just drop the guns and go back home to your family. Love them. Stop doing that. You're in grave danger. You might think you're doing great work for your children or something. It's rubbish. You're killing children of God. Don't think you won't pay for it. Anyway, strong words. What else can I say? So it's better to wash yourself clean now with the water than end up in the fire of burning realization when you can't escape and it's too late to say sorry. The word sorry is the water washing you clean. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Jesus. Oh, man. Oh, how did I get that wrong again? You say quite clearly here in this parable. Here's the direct word here. Judge not, you'll not be judged. Condemn not, you'll not be condemned. Forgive, and you'll be forgiven. Oh, what? How could I forget that when I was talking to that child? I started to judge them. It might be a homeless person. You might judge the homeless person. Oh, they're useless. They've destroyed their own life. I hear these comments. Oh, you got no idea. There, but for the grace of God go I, is a beautiful saying. So there you go. So I'm just sort of giving a general dialogue on this, just talking about it in human terms. Not a lot of theology there, but I've peppered it with a few of Jesus' sayings, and you can find them there. You have to look at the words. You have to understand the words. They have to open up inside your soul. You have to become the butterfly now while you're still a caterpillar. Then you become the butterfly who looks like a caterpillar, but you're not. You're a divine spiritual child of a divine loving creator, exactly the same as Jesus if you can achieve it. He said we all can, and I'm certainly not at his level, but he said, Christopher, you can be like me. Mary, Bob, Joe, Anne, whatever your name is, he said you can be just like me too. We can all be children of God now, the divine loving creator now. But you've got to be in the singularity. You can't be following a dualistic God. You'll miss it. You'll be confused. You'll have black and white going on. So you need to be singularity. In that love image there, I mean, Jesus is in the center of the circle in that painting I did. He's at the center. At the center of the circle is love. At the center of your life should be love. Your life is a circle from beginning to end. It should be filled with love, just like that painting of Jesus in the middle of the O, the letter O. Your life should be just like that. Nothing but his love, God's love. I'm in the Father, the Father's in me. I'm in you, you're in me. Those of us who join the spiritual family, we are all the same. There isn't hierarchy. There's no hierarchy. We're just divine children, filled with divine love, freely given to us by the divine loving creator to share with other children while we're here. And then we get to enjoy it in a world where there's no more suffering. Now that's something to look forward to. I don't know anything, I have no visions of that world, only following what Jesus described as we'll have bodies like angels. I've met Christians who say, oh no, we're going to have a physical body and we're going to eat in heaven. Well, that means toilet paper, toilets and all the smelly stuff that goes with that. I really don't think that's the case. I think the divine loving creator, we're not the top of the pile here, this human sort of walking compost bin, as amazing as it is. I think the divine loving creator can create a sort of slightly more amazing thing than this. Look at dolphins and butterflies and the variety here. I don't think the divine's limited to just a physical universe. I think there's more waiting for us to discover, far more beautiful and far more profound. The other thing I can tell you in my own life is that I have received help from heaven. Absolutely. Signs after sign after sign. Interestingly, I never received a healing for this problem I've got with my physical body. My stallion's still sick with this thing. I can't seem to get the healing. But they've given me so many signs, and it's always been the same message. Don't worry, we can see you. We're here. So I thought, oh, a healing would be pretty nice too, but thanks for reminding me you're there. You really are there. Even if, the death experience is coming through this illness soon, you're there. And I've received sign after sign, and they're so quirky. That's what I love about them. The spiritual children are very full of love and humour. And also it's a serious, seriousness to it. I've been in really serious trouble with this illness, and in grave, it causes all sorts of serious problems with the body and neurotoxic poisoning. And the agony is quite extreme. And yet I've never been, fully disconnected from heaven. And those serious times, I simply know they're there, because in times when I've had a little less pain, a little less toxic problems, I have a better connection, and it's much more uplifting. And I know it's just the infection that's blocking it in the body. It's not anything to do with negative things or anything like that. Sin or something. Sin is the main word, isn't it? So I can tell you that they can help you. We'll leave that phone. Phone ringing in background. Mobile phones. One of the problems with mobile phones, of course, is children now, they're walking everywhere like this. Even when I'm down by a river and there's a path there, they're walking like this, not looking at creation, and they've even got these earplugs in here. So earplugs and here and all around them. Cut out creation, cut out ear, not hearing the birds chirping, and visually not looking at the trees or the horizon or the clouds or the wonder of it all. These phones and these earplugs, I'm a bit worried about this. Children are moving out of nature into this, sort of technical world, cut off. Anyway, never mind. They're looking at sunrises on the phone instead of sunrises through their eyes. That's so weird. But that's a bit of a trap, bit of a danger. Anyway, that's a small digression there. Well, I better go. As I say, I can only hope that some of the things I've said are interesting. I could have made this more theological and, talking about Jesus' teachings compared to the Old Testament teachings. But it's really, we're a living life human being. And I'm just talking to you as a living human being, from one human being to another. That's all. But I do have a lovely connection to the teachings. I just love his words, always have. Love his parables, I just love them. I love him, and then therefore he leads me to the divine loving creator, and he helps me to prepare myself to pass through the death experience and be in the presence of the divine, and so I have to get ready. And no one else can get me ready. Teachers can help you, teachers can guide you, someone can stand with you and hold on to you. They will hold on to you. I mean, Jesus of Nazareth, his presence will hold on to you, steady you. His presence in your life will steady you. The divine love that he's at one with, the divine loving creator that's in him, that's with you, will steady you. Their divine love, which is eternal and does not suffer and never will suffer, and you won't suffer either once you're there in any way. They will stand with you. You've got to remember, they're inside us, in the soul and spirit. Their divine love is with you, in you. It's difficult to connect to when we're under stress and pressure or pain, but it's there. The idea is to connect to it before you get in great stress. It's very important. It's much harder if you haven't connected. You've just wandered along, serendipitously, just not thinking about life after death, or if there is life after death, you don't even believe it perhaps. That's a dangerous way to go. You're better off getting ready. And the only way to get ready is to be spiritual. The only way to be spiritual is to move into your true identity. You are a divine, perfect soul in a spiritual form, riding on a stallion or a mare or a transgender or whatever it may be. Creature, earth creature. You and your stallion, your horse, should be working together as one to express the divine love that's coming from heaven into your soul through the stallion, through your horse, through your body, to others around you, other horses, other stallions, other earth creatures around you. Their soul will feel your love, the love of heaven in you, of the way you interact with them with your body, lifting them up when they fall down, not punching them so they fall down. You see, the horse doesn't, our body just follows you. You say, punch, kill. Vladimir is using his horse to kill and slaughter. The poor horse hasn't got an option. His little horse, poor little boy, is causing his body to do that. Unbelievable. Other children use their body to lift people up who are hurt, save people in those crushed buildings that he's killing and slaughtering. Other children risk their life to help that body, get that body out of the building. They're the spiritual children who are going to heaven. They're doing it now. So, general talk, human to human. I have faults. I have some good points, some bad points. The idea is we minimize the bad points. You strengthen your weaknesses and maintain your strengths. Just remember that. You weaken all the things that are weaknesses. You lower them down. In the sense of you're no longer weak in this area, you become strong. All the strengths you have, you maintain, and all the faults you get rid of. You lessen them. So one gets less, faulty image, ego, identity. You got to get rid of all your ego identities. They got to go. So, I'm sorry. You'll still have a personality. You'll still have a way to express love. It'll be unique. It'll be you, but it'll be the true you, unhindered by judgment, all these other things. And you'll be able to connect to everyone exactly the same. It won't matter whether they're, the Pope or the President or the Prime Minister, a homeless person, the checkout chick. It doesn't matter who you meet. You'll meet them as a divine child, same as you, no different, on a spiritual journey of discovery. And then we interact with that child depending on, who they are. Are they a very false identity? Well, it's going to be hard. Connecting to them. Are they a really beautiful child? Well, you can connect to them straight away. You just feel like you've known them your whole life, that sort of thing. So that's it. So please become true identity. Divine loving Creator, please bless us all with this difficult task we all face in this dangerous world. Everyone who might be listening to this, help them search for their true loving identity. Help them remove all judgment, condemnation that comes out of a false understanding of who you are. Help us all realize we're not the physical form at all. We're a spiritual form. We just can't see it yet at the moment. We haven't fully realized it at the moment. Help us try to become one now, our butterfly now, before the caterpillar dies and we have to leave. Help us to guide other children if we get to that point of understanding where we correct our own mistakes, remove the beam from our own eye, and we can help other children love also. We need your help from the divine world. I need it. I know others do. And I pray for them all and every child on the planet, particularly those who are in the very, very evil, false identities at the moment in the world, who are cut off from you, cut off from heaven, are heading towards a very hellish experience, a burning realization of horror regarding what they've done. We pray for them that they're brought to their knees very quickly and that they drop the guns and walk back home to their family and love them and lead them on normal life. Only your love can bring us into this. We'll do our best to continue to spread the word and shine the light and help one another to shine the light. And may children find your words, Jesus of Nazareth, or other great teachers, and become alive and be awakened to their true spiritual nature and identity. I pray now for everyone, and I send divine love out to everyone. The little divine love I have in my soul goes out to you. That's God's love. not mine, but we're all allowed to use it freely to help others. So in the name of my teacher Jesus of Nazareth and the divine loving spiritual creator, may you all be blessed with love. There we go. Hope that wasn't too long.